In this video, I'm going to show you two landscapes and give you some thoughts and tips behind the process on how to paint looser and more freely. I started by dividing up my paper with some masking tape and then loosely doing a few lines with pencil to indicate the larger shapes. Probably one of the best tips for staying loose is to use a large brush. I tend to use quite a large brush from the beginning, simply because it keeps me on track of making the larger shapes first. Don't add any details from the beginning, just kind of make some outlines, make some areas. You can of course scratch into the paint, you can do kind of some whimsical sort of texture in your painting if you like, but try your best to refrain from doing any detail that you want to include in the painting, especially at the beginning stages. I have a rough idea of the layout for my square painting, but I want to keep things free, so I made a smaller painting. Below it you can see I'm using the same paper just so you can see both of them at the same time, but you could use two different papers or canvases in different formats. The reason I chose a square format and a more elongated rectangular format is that I want to try and keep my imagination fresh and try out things differently. With a different format, you kind of have to think differently. So I'll get some other ideas going, I think, when I start working in a different format. There are more positive things you can gain from working on more than one painting at a time. You tend to work more freely and loosely when you're working on at least two, or you could be three or four or more paintings at the same time. When you're just working on one painting at a time, we tend to get more precious and less willing to take risks and try something new. Another way to stay more loose and free is to mix things up, meaning that you can mix different materials. Here I'm mixing acrylic paints and some water-soluble wax crayons. If you don't normally use a painting knife, you could also try adding paint with a painting knife. It's a totally different experience. Maybe you need a bit of getting used to it, but it's also quite a nice way to stay loose, as you can't easily make too many details with a painting knife. I know some people are really excellent and they can, but for the rest of us, it's a good way to stay loose. Another thing you could try is to use your non-dominant hand. So I am right-handed, so I would use my left hand for a while, and then you can switch back and forth. In this smaller rectangular landscape, I imagine we're seeing the landscape from further away. So some hills and some sky, and you can see I'm kind of trying out some different things. I'm not copying the same exact motif as the larger one. I'm just simply trying things out, see what happens. I mean, I get an idea as I'm working, and then I think, what could I could probably try it out on this one. So that's really what I would encourage you to do. Have a couple of paintings on the go. Maybe one painting you let yourself be a bit more free. Test things out, take some risks, take some chances, and give yourself permission to experiment and try things, because this is actually the fun part, and you deserve it. We all deserve to have some fun and let go once in a while. So give yourself permission. In fact, this would probably be my number one advice if I could talk to myself, my younger self from 20, 25 years ago, to let myself, or give myself permission to just, you don't have to make a perfect painting every time. No, you don't. What you need is to experiment and try things out. You know, what's the worst that could happen? Nothing. You paint it over and make something else. And now just a few details with colored pencil. And I remind myself to stop before I add too much detail. So I'm gonna stop now and work a bit on the rectangular painting. This sketch will be even more loosely painted than the square one, and I'm gonna try and simplify even more. So less detail, less color, and see the sky. I hadn't planned this at all, but I just kind of, I saw the shape in the sky and just decided that that's gonna be a cloud. Let's remove the tape and see what we got. I always love this step because you really get to see the painting more clearly with that nice crisp white border around it. Just adding a bit of turquoise to complement all those nice warm neutral colors. And we're done. I hope this video gave you some tips and some tools to try a looser and more free painting style. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and to everyone, thank you very much for watching.